So may I ask now all the speakers to turn on the cameras? And we will have, given that we are a bit late, maybe we can have a 10-minute discussion from some of the questions that we had on the panel. And again, if anyone has any question that was not able to write down on the chat, they can raise the hand and we'll give the mic on. Okay, so very good. I see all the speakers. So may I have a general question from my side first? Given that this is a huge webinar and we are dealing with remote communities with islands that are not interconnected with like a lot of other neighboring countries, like in the case for many of the European countries. And this question goes to Reine, Stefan, and Daniel in particular. Which would be your views on targeting those markets that may have like less volumes for trucks, but at the same time it might be easier to deploy both trucks and infrastructure? Maybe we can start with Reine.
We do not see any difference. Let's say we will go widely when we go, and it's up to if there is an infrastructure available or not, I would say. So. And when it comes to right-hand drive and different kind of specifications and so on, that they will be available. So we do not see that problem.
Okay, Stefan.
Yeah, it's very interesting. If we can build an infrastructure, we will help and support, of course. If there is, it's even better, of course. And also left-hand or right-hand drive, it's not a problem for us. It's an optional choice you have with our products. But yeah, it doesn't matter if it's the countries we have to focus on right now. Or the small countries. We have to change these worlds together, and I think we are open for all ambitions. So yeah, let's start wherever we can start.
Good. Daniel?
Well, same here. I mean, it's the question about the infrastructure, and I mean, you have to look in every market as a separate business case, and it has to make sense for all the participants. It's not just a black and white thing. And the left or right hand steering. I mean, that's something that's a technical thing, but everything around has to be ready. And from this point of view, yes, we're open, and and again, it's every country. It's a business case. Everything has to fit together. Then it makes sense for the operators, because only if it makes sense for them, they're going to adopt it. Period.
Excellent. So we had another question from the attendees relating to the incentives and working with the government. So Daniel, we have done a lot of work in Switzerland, and from our speakers also, Björn and Alan, with the different countries. So may I ask, from your point of view, and that's also for all of you, which are the, let's say, the trickiest steps to engage with the governments in order to be able to do this rollout of the infrastructure? Maybe we can go the other way around, and we can start with Alan now.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, that's good. I mean, looking for money from government is always a challenge, whichever part of it you want to look at. And there's so many pieces to this, because it's incentivizing the purchase of the vehicles. It's the fuel cost that we've heard already. There's legislation in relation to vehicles that are different technology and having those in place. One of the great things about Ireland is we have a project going in Northern Ireland as well as in the Republic, and we work closely with those people. So it gives us, I suppose, a great exercise in two different jurisdictions, one inside the EU, one outside the EU. But that is also going to give us some challenges with type approval, for instance. So you have a lot of those pieces. And then you come to the money side. I think the rollout of the refueling network is probably the one that's the biggest challenge, because there's no huge benefit for early entrance into it if they can wait till there's enough trucks out there, but the trucks will never be there unless the infrastructure is in place. And I think without government intervention at that point at the very start, you're relying on producers who will have a limited, I think, focus, or individual companies who may support a depot for their own vehicles, but that doesn't help develop the market for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So I think that's probably the key piece for us.
Very good. Björn, what's the situation in Iceland?
Well, in general, I think we can say that we have been very fortunate with the government incentives in general, and now it's just a question how we can step up into the next segment. The key issue maybe has been that the construction of infrastructure for heavy duty is going to be a fairly large investment in the beginning. So having like battery electric vehicles, you don't have to build a complicated infrastructure to be able to charge a vehicle at home. So this is a new segment where you need to get the TCO in comparison with the diesel. So everybody has to take the step at the same time, and it's in my mind, it's just the commitment of a government. Are you really serious that you want to reach the climate targets and reduce the fossil fuel use and provide then the funding for the initial steps? As you could see, and this is the same calculation as we have done, you don't need a very large fleet to sustain a hydrogen refueling station, but you need the projects in the beginning to get direct funding so that we can get the TCO in general, the learning, the training of staff and etc. all in place at once. When these steps have been taken, and this doesn't have to take many years, then I think we'll see commercialization of these vehicles coming in, just as we're seeing with battery electric vehicles today.
Very good. And maybe then follow up with Daniel. But before then, may I add as well that it was just a few weeks ago that the European Commission has started conversations with the idea to loosen a little bit the state aid rules in order to finance 100% most of the renewable energy projects in Europe. Do you think that this can help with some of these like hurdles for the early stages of the investment as well? Daniel?
Well, for sure it will help, but it has to be sustainable enough that you can even run it without those subsidies. We are not in the EU, so we don't get any EU money here in Switzerland, and we are not a big fan of it, So, because I really believe if the government is subsidizing too much, you can also create inefficiency. Because I really believe that the economy itself is regulating them the best, So it's a very difficult question. It makes sense, but it has to make also sense without subsidies in the mid and long term view.
Stefan, what about in the Netherlands? Have you been working closely with the national or the regional governments?
It's still a challenge, of course. It's also a mindset. I think our government is pushing, of course, towards decarbonization. So yes, zero emission solutions are very important to be implemented in for example, the Netherlands. But you can also see. I think 2 weeks ago they postponed one of the push models. In this case, it was a tax on I think if you have a diesel-driven vehicle in the city. So they want to close the borders of the inner cities, and now they want to postpone this or change this to 2027. So they wanted to have it in 2025. That means everyone is waiting, and we cannot wait. We need to change this this world, of course, now today. It can already be done. We have momentum. So if the government supports, a lot can be achieved. And like Daniel says, we cannot focus on the subsidies. Of course, it helps for now, also for the front runners. So if you have the early adapters committing right now with a little bit of help, it helps also for creating mass production, also creating more possibilities. But there's still a lot of other things to do, like changing the regulations and also having the CO2 tax or other things that can help to create a stable TCO parity with the diesel variant. But there are a lot of challenges right now, and we need our support from the government. So we're working hard on this. We know we have a lot of good willing customers already, infrastructure already, but we need more help from the government to also help build this new business.
Very good. And Reine, what's the status?
I think I agree with the previous speakers. It is about we divide it into subsidies and taxation. That is two difference. Subsidies is short term, perhaps mid-term, but immediately when the volumes start to catch up, you cannot have subsidies. The society cannot withstand that. Then you have to have some kind of taxation system that change the game. And that means that you should penalize emitting fossil and encourage being zero emission. And that means that you need to move in some kind. And I will say a lot of policymakers since we talk about Europe here, are not aware of what they need to do. And that kind of dialogue we are having with them, because they think perhaps like in cars, electric cars going shorter distances will be coming closer and closer to diesel. This is not the case here, since you need so much more energy, and the energy storage costs a lot. That is the most expensive, actually. Batteries are expensive, hydrogen storage are expensive, and that means that as long as you use a lot of energy and you need a lot, then it will remain more expensive than a diesel in opposition to a car. So that need to be understood. You cannot treat it as a car. It is a truck. It has different circumstances, doing a different job, need taxation and policy thinking. And I would say this is the biggest hurdle. We will fix the trucks. We are targeting selling half of our production 2030 zero emission, but that will never happen unless we have policymakers doing their part of the job. Infrastructure, I would say there's a lot of people prepared to invest, but again, policymakers need to resolve the chicken and the egg.
Very good, thank you. So a question for the three truck manufacturers again, and this is like repetitive question from different attendees. So for example, for a specific order of 300 trucks, which will be the time frame for delivery from each one of the companies approximately? Maybe we can start with Daniel from Hyundai's perspective.
The problem are not the trucks, it's the infrastructure. Let's assume everything is there, and then the workshops are ready. 300 trucks we could deliver, let's say mid of next year.
Stefan?
Makes it easy for me. Then you answers first. I don't think it's the problem isn't the trucks. We are waiting for the mass production, of course, and we need this implementation first. But normally we have a 6-month delivery time, and of course, if we go up to the numbers, we should have more challenges, of course, how to fill this global market. But at the end, let's start first with now. If we have the 300, we can deliver next year as well. Yeah, so we can go up to 2,000 for the production, but depending on demands of the market, we can go upscale, of course, a production facility.
Very good, Reine?
Yep, for us it will take longer time before we can deliver 300 trucks. First of all, the economics is not in place, so I don't think there are many that are interested to purchase one, to be honest. And so probably the policies will take as long time as the trucks. So I think you will not find a good game here before 25-ish. That is. So it's no idea, basically, unless you're like in Switzerland, where I agree that there you have special circumstances. And so I think Hyundai's decision to grow from there is good. But as long as you don't have them in place, nothing will happen, even if you can deliver 300 trucks.
Okay, excellent. So maybe one last question, and then we can wrap up with a session. It's a bit late. So talking about the infrastructure now, about the HRS, all of your trucks are working on 350 bar, and when you have these multimodal stations that work with 700 bar for the cars, for the fuel cell cars, are you considering this when you are building up your infrastructure? And that's probably more for Daniel and for Stefan. Stefan, maybe you can start.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we start this ambition with 350 bar on the heavy duty. But you already mentioned in my presentation, of course, we also build on 700 bar, in this case for the smallest vehicle solutions. But we can adapt the 700 bar as well. Like for instance in Germany, they already have the infrastructure ready. I do not know if it's ready for heavy duty and multiple filling, but in this case we can also have with our solutions 700 bar solution towards the customer if they want to have 700 bar. So no problem. Yeah, a little bit more expensive, but not that much.
Daniel, what about the stations in Switzerland?
I mean, they're both equipped with 350 and 700 bars, but it doesn't really make sense for heavy duty to go with 700 bars because you would have to invest much more into the setup of the HRS because you have high pressure tanks and it would take you forever to fill up a 700 bar truck. And people in common, they believe that if you have a 350 and now you go with the 700 bar, you have double the mileage. That's unfortunately not like that, because the tanks are thicker and maybe you have 30 to 50% more range. Yes, that might be possible, but the cost for the hydrogen is much higher. The cost for the infrastructure at the pump station is much higher, and it takes you actually longer to fill up a truck because of technical limitations you would have to overcome. So for the heavy duty trucks, from our point of view, it really doesn't make sense.
Okay, thank you, Daniel, Stefan, and all the other speakers as well. I think that's probably about the right time to close up the session. So I'll thank you again for joining in today, giving your thoughts, and for all the attendees as well. And this is also just a reminder that we will then circulate the recordings of the presentations during this week. There will be a link in which you can look at the videos. And if you have any questions, any further questions, you can always log into the Community Hydrogen Forum website, and you can use the forum to ask the specific questions that you are interested in. Okay, so thank you all, and have a very good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.